Welcome to the Misophonia podcast. This is episode 219. My name is Adil Ahmad, and I have Misophonia. This week, I talk with Andy, a production supervisor from Lexington, Kentucky. Andy shares how misophonia shows up in both his personal and professional life, and how emotional intelligence has become essential in his role. We talk about growing up in a large, close-knit, homeschooled family, and how misophonia shaped his early experiences. And he opens up about past struggles with therapy, particularly being pushed into exposure therapy, and some of the promising new approaches he's exploring now. We also touch on the overlap between misophonia and being a highly sensitive person, and how this awareness plays into his work and self-understanding. It's a great conversation about family, self-awareness, and the ongoing effort to navigate misophonia as we get older with compassion and persistence. After the show, let me know what you think. You can reach out to me by email at hello@misophoniapodcast.com or hit me up on Instagram or Facebook at Misophonia Podcast. By the way, please head over and leave a quick rating or review wherever you listen to the show. It really helps drive us up in those algorithms, which is where a lot of people seem to be finding us. A few of my usual announcements. If you want to come on the show, just go to misophoniapodcast.com and click the Be a Guest link. And as always, thanks for the incredible ongoing support of our Patreon supporters. If you feel like contributing, you can read all about the various levels at patreon.com/misophoniapodcast. All right, now here's my conversation with Andy. Andy, welcome to the podcast. Great to have you here.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Cool. So yeah. Do you want to tell us a little bit about kind of roughly where you are, what you do?
Yeah. So I live in Lexington, Kentucky. I am a transplant from Eastern Pennsylvania. So I've been here for about since November, and I did that for work. And what I do for work, they gave me some fancy title, but basically I'm a production supervisor in a manufacturing facility. So currently I am responsible for the day-to-day operations of about 58 people. So,
Cool.
Yeah, it's quite a bit. And, when we talk about misophonia, I mean, I hear so many sounds all day, every day in an environment like that. So it certainly does not help my case at times.
Yeah. So are you on, do you have an office at times that you can retreat to, or are you on, is like a factory floor kind of thing, or just production?
No, that's a good question. And I do have, because I have to have, difficult conversations with people and, get HR involved and stuff like that. I do have.
Oh, yeah. Let's hear those stories. No, I was kidding.
Yeah, but I do have my own office in order to conduct those things. So fortunately, I do have that little escape.
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The kind of the change management kind of conversations, I would imagine.
Yes. Performance improvement.
Yeah.
All that good stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so that brings about, I'm sure we'll get to just empathy. You must have some emotional awareness if you're tasked to do this kind of. You must have to, in real time go with the flow on the psychological, reading the room, basically, right? And that's something that we're obviously very adept at as misophones. So I'm going to jump around because I do on these conversations. Yes. But have you heard the term like highly sensitive person? Would you kind of consider yourself one of those?
100%. I've always felt that way, but I've been listening to episodes from the podcast a lot, and it does typically come up. And so yes, that's definitely the case with me. Emotional intelligence is something that I have to be able to rely on a lot. In my career field, just because I deal with people every day. Some people would think I'm responsible for machinery and equipment and that we get product out. But when it comes down to it, I know nothing about those machines. I have to put people where I feel that they could have the most lasting effect and be as productive as possible. And typically that means not putting them with certain people. And understanding how that works person to person is super important for my job. So, I think emotional intelligence plays a key part in my role. I mean, you have to have that IQ as well, but to that point, EQ might be just as, if not more, important to my position.
Yeah, yeah. And we'll get more to the misophonia. I'm curious if, and this might not be a serious question, but has misophonia ever come up in one of those conversations? Like, hey, Charlie, you better shut that.
No, no, it has not. And we'll definitely talk more about that. But as far as like my little quirks and what I got going on,
Yeah.
I do my best to keep myself separated from that. I'm there to discuss them. I have my own way of motivating people that typically comes from personal experiences that I have. But when it comes down to those personal things, I keep those to myself
Yeah.
during those conversations.
Gotcha. And so why don't we maybe I guess let's just rewind and go forward, like early days for Andy. When did you start noticing this?
Okay, yeah. So I've been thinking about this a lot actually, and I think it's pretty typical that it's about that puberty age for most of us, and I believe that that's about when it was for me, like 11 or 12.
Yeah.
Because I think back, and my earliest memories involved people in my family, and I came from a big family. I have 5 sisters, all younger than me, and then my parents. And my earliest misophonia memories came from chewing chips, like potato chips. And I'm pretty sure, that was about 11 or 12. I don't remember those feelings of anger and rage leading up to that, based on something like simple like that. I know I had to hear chewing and all the other stuff that drives me nuts before then. But I think it was about that 11, 12-year-old age that I really started to notice that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and what was there anything going on at home that was unusual around that time? I don't know. Must have been. It could have been stressful with having so many young kids, so many kids in general. I'm just curious.
Well, I mean, nothing in particular, like trauma-wise or anything like that. I know. The biggest thing for me was I was homeschooled up until 10th grade. So at that time, I was in my house with my family, and that was it. So if I had the chewing and stuff, I couldn't really escape it. Like I could go outside, I could go to my room, but I'd always have to come right back to it. So I don't know if that really played much of a role, but I mean, when you bring it up like that, like what's going on at the time, I was very tied to my family, just because that was my friends, my schoolmates, my classmates. Like it was my sisters and my parents.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But so 10th grade. Okay. Because I mean that's like getting right into high school.
Yeah.
Was your mom your teacher?
Yes, my mom.
Mom. Gotcha. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And she taught all the kids, all your sisters too. So it's like
sort of, because I always felt I got the short end of the stick being because I'm the oldest.
Yeah.
So my youngest sister, she's 12 years younger than me. So she was homeschooled for kindergarten and then went to school. So,
okay.
For her, it kind of worked out. For me, it's like I had more of that than they did. And if you couldn't tell, I wasn't a big fan of it. I was not a fan.
Okay. So what were some of the things that you didn't like about it? I'm just curious.
Well, I always felt different. When I see people, they'd be like, because I got into sports when I was in 7th grade. So my parents let me do sports, but then I'd go to practice, and I'm the homeschooled kid, and that didn't feel really good. So, it's always I just wanted to be normal. So for me, it was like, let me get to public school, let me just be a normal kid, and I'll be happy.
Gotcha. And so after 10th grade, they let you do that.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Then I just
you
suffered
kept raising your hand
like a normal kid.
Gotcha. You kept raising your hand in 10th grade and said, "Mom, can I go to public school?"
Yeah, pretty much. Andy, what's the question? Can I go to public school? No, not again. No.
Okay, cool. And what? Yeah. So, so most of your friends outside of home were through sports? I guess. I'm curious.
Yeah.
Did they ever restrict? And did you ever talk to anybody about misophonia? I guess let's even at home.
So yeah, like back then, no.
Yeah.
The biggest things that would get me back then are chewing, and I think coughing started to really bother me, and
Yeah.
sneezing. So any sort of chewing, whether it be crunchy stuff or slurping or smacking of lips, like all those things that are pretty typical with us. But then that morphed a lot into like coughing and sneezing and just other general mouth sounds. But at the time, the only people I would talk to it about were those closest to me and my family. And it would come out in the form of rage and anger. So, my mom, for example, one of the sweetest, women that I've ever met in my life, slightly biased there, but, she's a wonderful human being. And I would just get so angry at her, as a 12, 13, 14-year-old. And all she's doing is eating food. And so I just be like, stop that. Like, I can't take that. And the general response to that between her and my sisters would be, I can't help it. Like, I can't help it. I'm just eating. And it's like, well, yeah, but I'm so angry. Like, stop it. Like over the years, I started to really understand that. Like they really can't help that. They're not doing anything wrong or anything different than somebody else. It's just that when I'm around, they know I'm going to get upset. So yeah, what I did is, I didn't tell anybody else about it. Like if I was outside with neighbor kids, or if I was in school, like I just dealt with it, and I didn't think it was a thing. Not that like I was ashamed of it. I just thought it was something that I had to deal with. I thought it was just who I was, or that it was fairly normal. It was just maybe a little more severe with me. But yeah, I never told anybody about it. I didn't know about it. I didn't know it was a thing.
When did you find out it was a thing?
I think I was like 25. So I'm 36 now. So about 11 years. And that actually came from one of my sisters, who I actually just talked to today. And we just started. I'm not sure how the topic came up, and probably because I was planning on speaking to you tonight. But
yeah, you're like, yeah, I'm talking to this cool guy. He does this podcast.
Yeah. So I was like, has it gotten worse for you? And she was like, yeah. She's like, it has. And
she has it too.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
Yes. Now, in my experience, I don't know what it's like to be in her brain, but it always felt like for her it wasn't nearly as bad as what I have to deal with, and maybe that's what we all think. I don't know, but it always just felt more severe with me. And from when I talked to her about it, hers is more specialized or focused on like just chewing basically is about it. Whereas, and we'll talk more about this, but it's like I've developed many more layers over the years where it's not just the chewing. But she told me, getting back to when I first heard about this, and I'm just guessing at 25. It could be a couple years before or after. I'm not quite sure, but she was saying, hey, like that thing that you always used to yell at us girls for back in the day. I was like, yeah, that thing. I remember that thing. And she's like, well, it's got a name. I was like, what? So then she said it's misophonia. And I was like, okay. So I looked it up, and at the time, and this is where I'm not quite sure the timeline. Maybe it was before, but there really wasn't a whole lot in there about it. I on the internet, that is, I'd find a couple articles here and there.
Yeah.
And the thing that discouraged me a lot from really going any further into my research was finding out that it's not recognized as an actual disorder by the DSM-5. And So that's where I was like, wait, so this thing that like I have to suffer through and like manage and deal with on a daily basis isn't even recognized. And meanwhile, how many other millions of disorders are out there that, get all this
Mm.
attention and focus and funding for research. So, over the years, I just kind of like, was like, well, I mean, I know it's something, so that's good at least.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't really dig too far into it. And lately, I've been, doing a little digging, and um, that's where I was like, well, there's got to be other people around here like me, like, and that's where I found your podcast. So,
Yeah, that was the whole point of it.
yeah, it's great, it's perfect. So thank you for that, man. It's like it does feel at times like we're out on an island here. So it's nice to know that there's others like us and that we don't have to kind of suffer through this alone. Another thing, there's a show and it's called Sex Education, and I think it's on Netflix. I'm not quite sure. I don't know if I can even say those say actual names here, but that show, and I think it's the third season. The one girl in it proclaims to be
Yeah,
a misophonia. Yeah,
I
did
think
you
I heard
remember that?
about this.
Yeah,
I think I
yeah.
heard. I don't watch it on a. I don't. I have the attention span. I'll fall asleep.
Right,
But I
right,
did
right.
hear about that one. I think I did. I did check out that episode. Yeah.
It
So that.
blew my mind because
Yeah.
like the dude's like eating chips or something, and she's like geeking out. And they're like, "Oh, you can't
Yeah.
do that on her. She has misophonia." It was
Right.
great. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
remember there was an effort by some people to try to contact the producer. I don't think it went anywhere. After seeing that. So.
Okay.
Yeah. So it did definitely make an impact. People noticed for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I was very happy for that. But yeah,
Cool.
I've known about it for probably about a decade or so, but until recently, I haven't really reached out to any sort of community or anything. But really glad that it is in existence. The podcast.
Did your uh, I guess I mean, other than your sister, since she told you it had a name, did you bump into anybody else?
It has it?
Yeah.
No,
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 no, no. Okay. Yeah.
no. I have not. Like that is, she's literally the only person I know in person that has it.
How do you so I guess since then or just generally, like what do you I guess your coping methods at work and
Oh my. Okay. Yeah.
in the
So,
crazy world?
oh, it's ridiculous. Yeah, and that makes it very difficult there too. But at home, it's you know, being in a relationship or being at home with family. It's the only coping mechanisms I really have are running away, the flight.
Yep.
Um, Now, at times, because I find that those that are closest to me are the ones that I am the most mean to about this, which
Mm-hmm.
makes me feel really horrible.
Mm-hmm.
So then that's where I can do like the fight part, which is like stop that or knock it off or
Yeah.
go away. Um, but I do my best, especially now, like as I'm older and stuff, to not to do that. The other thing I've developed over the years is what a good friend of mine called defensive chewing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Mimicking maybe, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
so if say somebody's eating a bag of chips, well then I'm going to eat a bag of chips.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm
And
gonna eat it louder.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
I will chew louder than you, so I don't have
Yeah.
to hear it. Another thing, I've had friends. Oh yeah, I still have friends that have no idea about this. A good friend of mine, we get together and have like movie night or watch a show or something. And he was a real big fan of like chips, so he'd find all these random flavored chips, and we'd try them out. And so we'd be sitting there, and okay, I try them out, and that's cool now. And he would say, well, no, he would just keep eating chips, and so I was like, okay, like I've the novelty of these odd tasting chips is over for me now. So like I kind of want to get back to the show and focus on that, but now I can't. So what I do is, I kind of just position myself on the couch in a way that my finger happened to be in my ear, you know, and my arm would be over my other ear, and
Right.
just to dull it out a little bit. But I don't like that, and I hate it because Um, and the same thing goes for earplugs or noise canceling. Like
Yeah.
I feel very uncomfortable with it. Um, and I've thought about that for a very long time as to why that's not something I'd like to use as like a coping mechanism. And um, a couple years ago, I worked with this guy who has autism.
Mm.
And in the career field in which I am, it's difficult. I mean, I'm sure to have that is difficult anywhere, but particularly so when we talk about the emotional intelligence that's needed in something like this, and being able to understand people and read people and convey a certain level of understanding. And so this person didn't tell me about this for a very long time until it was affecting their job performance. And I was having one of those difficult conversations saying where, you know, you need to do better in this area and that area and yada yada. And finally he breaks down and like quite literally breaks down and, confesses
Mm.
that he has um, this disorder. And I was like, okay, man, that's fine. That's like not a big deal. Like we can work through this together now that I know, yada yada.
Yeah.
And then the biggest thing I took away from that was the most difficult thing for him was not dealing with the condition on a daily basis, making it work in his life, but was telling me that that was a thing that he had,
Mm.
like admitting that that was a problem. And um, I feel the same way at times with misophonia, where if I walk around with earplugs all day and people ask me why I have earplugs in, I can either lie or tell them the truth. Either way, I'm going to feel uncomfortable about it. So I do my best not to do that. And I have to be able to hear. I have to be able to understand what people are saying. Like when we talk about work, fortunately, it's a loud environment. So I do have earplugs that I use most of the time. But I mean, that's when I'm out on the floor. Like when I'm in my office, in a conference room, like I need to be able to hear. So even having noise cancel, or, the ones that kind of drown certain
Right.
sounds out, not others, I mean, I would just still feel a bit odd there. And I wouldn't, and the last thing I want to do is have to have a conversation about it. It's just odd, but my reality.
Yeah. No, we all feel. I mean, we don't want the attention to be on us. And that's.
Right.
I don't know if that's somehow related to the highly sensitive person reading the room. We don't want people reading us
Right. For
as
sure.
much on things that we're uncomfortable about.
Yeah. It's like, I just want to be there and do my job. Like, I don't want to be like the novelty, right? Like, I don't
Yeah.
want people to be like, hey, look at this guy. It's kind of weird, Like, I just
Yeah.
want to be able to be there and do my job.
No, I mean, obviously, people listening probably recognize that from your early days of not wanting to stand
Right.
out,
Exactly. Exactly.
and you were probably quite vigilant. Oh, well, and now I'm like totally um,
No, please do.
speculating, but
Please do.
you would have had to have been. It's like I don't know, a lot of situations like being an immigrant or whatever. It's like you have to be super vigilant at an early age to like what are people thinking of me. If
Yeah.
you're, and maybe part of it's just self conscious people are like that too. But maybe for us we're predisposed to kind of have this thing switch on for us,
Right.
and for others maybe not, and something else switches on.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you can, I don't know, you can kind of draw a line to that dot potentially, um, of just something that makes us extra vigilant.
For sure.
Um, yeah, really really interesting. Um, I guess I mean, speaking of like relationships,
Yeah.
you said there is a bit of flight and there is a bit of fight. I mean, do you have I guess kids of your own as well? Like, what's the family situation
Well,
like?
I don't have any kids.
Yeah.
I'm in a relationship. It's currently long distance.
Mhm.
Um, so
That's
those
not
are.
bad for the misophonia,
It's
unless the
not.
phone
It's really
connection is.
not.
Yeah.
Yes. But that's obviously. I mean, that's not the intention forever, right?
Right, right, right.
So, um, and the thing is like, in past relationships, like
Mm,
what I've done is I've let those feelings of anger
hmm.
build up to the point where I explode. And then that's how they find out about it. And so what I've done differently in my current relationship is I've told her about it like pretty early on. So,
you had a t-shirt on your first date.
Yeah, pretty much, right? Hey, by the way, what's that word mean? Oh, I'm glad you asked. No, but it was, a couple months into a relationship, but it was like, hey, by the way, I have this thing. And so any other normal person, you tell them that, like, they don't fully understand it. Like, no one really fully understands that, I don't think, unless you really have it. Or you deal with somebody on a daily basis and have the empathy to be able to understand. But so, with her, it's like I'm trying to like establish a foundation around it to like get some building blocks for it to like help the relationship down the road. Because I know there's a time, when it's not a long distance relationship anymore. And, in my past, I found that the ones that I'm hardest on are those that I'm closest to, whether it be family or those I'm in relationships with. So with her, I'm trying something different where, I'm just like, I'm trying to bring her awareness towards it, just so she at least has an idea of what it is, before, it becomes something that, I get angry about. And maybe then she can hopefully understand that I'm not angry at her necessarily. It's just something that happens in my brain.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Well, no, hope things good. And this, I don't know. Maybe this is a and yeah, we'll see how this turns out. Especially interesting that it's long distance for a while. She can, prepare for it.
Yeah, for sure.
And you can too. It's not like you're
exactly
all of a sudden, just together all the time. There is some thinking.
And I've done that before. And it was like, oh God. And at first it's okay. What I found is there are times when I'm okay. Not like I'm not great, but I'm okay with certain sounds that bother me and drive me nuts until I'm in, maybe my anxiety is a little high. Maybe I'm in a high stress situation. That's whenever, like, if I'm already stressed out and then somebody starts eating a bag of chips or chewing on some ice, then it's just like game over. Like my brain just shuts down. And so that's where it's like, at the very least, I could ease my way into that with her to where it's like, I'm not building something up into, like, I'm not building a situation up with high stress and chewing and her there, like that perfect storm where I just implode. Hopefully I can just kind of better manage it. We'll see.
Hey man, with highly sensitive people like us who have high EQ, it's maybe we use that talent to kind of recognize these situations. I try to do that now too. It's just trying to figure out where's my nervous system at. Like, am I like wide open to, implosion, and maybe I should like make set a emotional boundary right now so that I try to not do that if I can't run. So yeah, maybe we just use our HSP to kind of like help ourselves and help and help anyone else who's potentially collateral damage.
For sure, like use it as a tool rather than something that's holding us back.
Yeah. No, that's good. Recognizing stress and all that stuff, like, that's something these are the things we should try to tell as many people as possible. Because if I knew that earlier, like, I'd be a lot more cognizant, but Misophonia is so early in its kind of awareness that the only thing people really hear about is, oh yeah, hey, another person who's annoyed at sounds. But I think there are like some really practical skills like this that can help. Some self-awareness that can benefit us in many other aspects.
Definitely.
So
like another like coping mechanism that I've I haven't heard from anybody else yet. And it's new in the sense that I think probably within the last 10 years, maybe less, that I do is, and it's kind of layered, but it's almost like I've developed a physical, oh my God, I can't think of the word, tick, a physical tick.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, I was with I was in a group today with a few people, okay? And I'm just sitting there minding my own business, and somebody sneezes, okay? My first reaction is my head snaps directly to the source. So like instant. And it's of course accompanied with like a very angry face. So even though this person is entirely across the room from me and has no awareness that I even exist at the moment, like I think in my head, me doing that and displaying my displeasure, whether I'm the only one to realize it or not, I think helps me kind of cope with it. Another thing that I do is like more of like a twinge, almost like almost like if you're cold and like you have a shiver.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll do like a shiver with my neck and my head, and it's more jerky than say a typical shiver, and it's got the angry face accompanied with it as well. But that helps me, or that I do a lot at like work and in public settings, like in a restaurant or something like that, where it's like, as horrible as it is, and like, as far as I know, no one's seen it yet. But well, no one said they have seen it yet. I'm sure they have to have seen it. But like that's something that like just seems very odd to me, but kind of makes sense too, because like the biggest thing that I find whenever that happens, like that rage builds up, it's like I can never fully express to somebody how angry I am at them at that particular moment for even existing.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't say that across the room. I can't tell them to go, you know what, off and shut up and stop doing that. But what I can do is make this weird grimacing face and make this weird twitchy movement. And for some reason in my mind, that lets them know that I disapprove of what they're doing. And it gets me through that split second.
Yeah. That kind of is an intersection of a bunch of stuff, like just having a sense of control or feeling you have a sense of control. Definitely helps. Seems to be an important factor, or yeah, in some ways, an important factor. That's really interesting. Yeah, and these are things that very people bring up, like, and going back to your thing about the what was it called, the defensive chewing, the people call it mimicking. I mean, there's even to the point where there's research about mimicry as well. And I think also just the idea of this kind of control also comes up it's starting to come up in research. It's very early stages. So no, it's interesting that kind of has an effect. One thing I try to suggest to people that I've thought of, going back to kind of what we were just talking about, how you're at an early age you had to kind of like, you didn't want to feel left out and or potentially like reading the room a lot, just almost like acknowledging and thanking that part of you as something that exists, that kind of like made you, that maybe have kind of turned into misophonia, a side effect that you don't need, but at least had an initial good intention.
Yeah.
Sometimes, and coupled with the fact that you're reminding yourself that, hey, I'm not in danger. Some ancient tiger is not going to kill me. Uh,
Yeah.
that combination kind of like tends to put me at ease.
Yeah.
Even if
I
I'm
like
not in
that.
a stressful situation, it does kind of like, I don't know what it does. It sends almost like actually a shiver through I kind of visualize my nervous system. And I think that, I don't know, that's something that that's a trick that kind of helps me as well.
I like that. Instead of it just being like, I'm stuck with this, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, this is what got me to where I am. Like, got me through the other stuff.
Yeah, I can look at that. I can look at myself with some empathy,
Yeah.
as if like, my kind of an earlier version of myself was trying to protect me, and
Yeah.
that kind of I don't know, that it seems to kind of like help on various levels. So
Definitely. One other thing, I mean, going back to the early years, and just doing reading online and stuff about misophonia. I don't know how valid this is, but it says somewhere in there that like could be associated with childhood head trauma.
mm,
And I I remember distinctly in fifth grade playing football in a parking lot and getting bowled over by some big guy
mm,
and definitely getting concussed.
mm-hmm,
And then in like about seventh grade, I was riding a bicycle in the dark
mm,
and tried to ramp something like any intelligent 13-year-old would do. And I ended up going over the handlebars and definitely concussing myself.
mm.
So like sometimes I wonder, and that's just two that I remember. My brain tells me there's a couple more squeezed in there somewhere, but um, I know that because I was pretty rambunctious, and like adventurous. So I
Mm-hmm.
tried to do all this fun stuff and usually would fall right on my head. So I wonder sometimes, how much that plays into it, if at all.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what I don't know what the research says, or if there is much research on brain trauma.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm sure a lot of kids. I'm sure it happens to a lot of kids,
Yeah.
and a lot of
I
kids
can't be
just
alone with
recover.
that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure a lot of I'm sure. Yeah, I think about that. I mean, having kids myself, I'm like, you have no idea what could happen to your head on any single day,
Yeah.
and and um, and so there has to be a mechanism for heads to recover,
Yeah.
but obviously that doesn't necessarily happen. That doesn't necessarily happen for everybody. So
Right. Right.
yeah, I don't know what the research is. I'm sure at some point that'll be more research, but that
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's good to think about the past and what these various events. Hey, I mean, have you ever had like an MRI or a scanner of some sort?
I don't believe so.
Yeah, yeah.
Definitely not in my adulthood. I don't think
Hmm.
so when I was a child or anything.
Hey, quick tip. If if you there's a lot of at the local university. There's a lot of if there's like a neuroscience center.
Yeah.
They're always doing like research where you can get a free free scan basically.
Good to know.
Uh, and they might not try to diagnose or anything, but I think for a lot of them, I actually recently participated in one for misophonia. You can ask for your files and they'll give them to you, and then you can there's ways you can get that processed.
Well, that's awesome
And
because I
take a
got
look at stuff.
University of Kentucky right down the road here.
Yeah. I mean, those things usually cost like thousands of dollars. So, but if you participate in research, you
It's free.
can get it for free. So,
Yeah.
uh,
That'd
anyways,
be interesting. At the very least, interesting to see.
yeah, yeah,
Whether
yeah.
something comes from it or not,
Right, right.
it would still be cool.
Yeah. Um, cool. Well, yeah. So I guess maybe going back to your, the people, your family growing up who you said, you're angry with. Like, what's your relationship with them like now? Like, would you talk about misophonia? What do they think?
Oh, like with my entire direct family, like I have fantastic relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Um, now they all know, what I have. The exception might be my dad, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I don't know why, but I always felt so. And I've heard on other episodes where maybe their dad was like the start of their misophonia. And my dad, he might have been, come to think of it, he might have been. But I was always too afraid to say anything about it to him. I had no problem telling my sisters or even my mom, like I don't like when you do that. But for my dad, I don't know. I always felt uncomfortable telling him about it. But the one time, I might have been in my early 20s, and my dad and I went golfing together. And I love golfing, and my dad's the one that got me into golfing, and him and I have a great relationship. But he also happened to have bronchitis at the same time. Oh my God. So I played 18 holes with him, and I almost had a mental breakdown because I didn't know how to keep going, but I didn't want to stop. And I didn't want to tell him, like, hey, this is a problem. And eventually I had to say, Dad, like I can't, like, the sound, I just can't take it. Like, it's driving me insane. And, then it just gets to the, well, I can't help it. I got bronchitis. Like, I'm sorry. Yeah. And then I feel even worse about it, But as far as, like, and then since then, I guess, I don't know if I've directly came out and told him about it, but all the other ones, including my mom, they definitely know about it. But I have really, really good relationships with them all.
Gotcha. Okay. And did you? Well, and then I guess your let's talk about, I guess, school after public school. Did you go to college and stuff? Like, what was your
I did
progression like after? And how was misophonia in
Well, yeah, that's a good question. That kind of brings me back. I mean, I'm in. I've since gotten my MBA because I've changed career fields, but I actually went to college for a weird little thing called forestry. And ironically, the reason I got into forestry was because I hated people, and I thought, well, this job pays me to go on a hike every day, and trees don't talk back, and I get to work by myself.
It is. Sounds perfect to me.
Yeah. So, like, think about that, like, as like someone with misophonia, where it's like, hey, I don't have to deal with people at all. And from that aspect, it was fantastic.
Did that actually play in, by the way? I mean, obviously, you like peace and quiet, but were you ever thinking, hey, it's super quiet, I'm not going to get triggered?
I don't think so.
Yeah, okay.
But
subliminally or subconsciously.
But like back then, I mean, talked about being homeschooled. I was not very comfortable around people, So for me, it just made sense for that. Now, in my mind, I said I don't want to be stuck behind an office either, or behind a desk all day in an office, But in hindsight, it's like, well, I mean, that played perfectly into my misophonia because I didn't have to deal with people at all. It was fantastic. But through college, it wasn't that bad, I don't think. And I think a lot of that was because everything was so new, and my brain would try to, like, I could deal with it a little better just because I wanted to make a good impression. I wanted to be around people. I wanted, because since then I've learned, I was an extrovert trapped in the body of an introvert, for a very long time in my life. Once I came to that realization, things changed. I got in a different career field. I deal with, close to 60 people on a daily basis now, so can't be, an introvert and do that for a very long time. So, but back in school, in college, and there, I was between 18 and 23. But of course, with roommates, I think it was probably the worst. But there again, I was deathly afraid to say anything to them about it, typically chewing or sneezing. But just because, I had to live with those people every day.
Yeah.
And they weren't my family. But I don't really have many like real specific memories with misophonia from back then, other than just general ones where like I didn't have any like ultra scarring experience or anything with that. But what would bother me, probably, thinking about it now, was like in the classroom, where tapping, like repetitive noises get me too.
Yeah.
I consider my misophonia well-rounded. So pretty much everything drives me absolutely bonkers. But whatever that sound may be in a classroom would drive me nuts. There's always that guy, the drummer guy, that likes to, tap all over his desk with his pen. And I remember a couple of those. And that would drive me nuts because I'm trying to focus. Like I'm trying to pay attention. And this guy's pulling me away from that, where my focus now goes straight to that and no nothing else.
Right.
So that was difficult, but never to the point where it like affected my learning really, or my grades or anything. And I never said anything about it. Of course, I just gave an angry look and tried to like look and focus on something else until he stopped.
Yeah, a lot of us, right. It's the college years seem to be, for a lot of us, seem to not be as bad, and I think it is like for a lot of the reasons you said, where a lot of stuff is new.
Yeah.
Things change. You have definitely a lot more agency than you did when you were at home, and therefore control. And you're able to actually leave rooms more often.
Yeah.
Did you ever mention it to a doctor or anything?
Yeah. Man, you're reading my brain today, because that's kind of where my head was going next.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have. I think the first time I talked to a doctor about it, well, what I did is, it was really bothering me. This is within the last, I think, less than 5 years. And so I sought out therapy. And so I'd been seeing a psychologist up until October of 2024 for the 10 years prior to that, at least. So I was getting, for anxiety and depression. And so, I was taking, one of the daily medicines for that. And I don't know, I never felt comfortable talking to them about it, because usually our conversations was, 10, 15 minutes. Do you want more medicine? Okay, good. Okay, here's your medicine. There wasn't really too much digging into the psychology of it all. So I was like, well, that's probably not my best avenue for this. So I reached out to somebody specifically, and I looked online, just trying to find somebody that had experience with misophonia. And I found a doctor who did, and I started meeting with her. And in one of the recent episodes of the podcast, there was a doctor on, and one of the things that she talked about was, I believe, therapy trauma. And I have therapy trauma from this person. And what happened was, at first it was, just kind of talking about it to better understand, like, kind of what we're talking about today, like how it impacts me and how I cope with it. And it turned into, okay, I got a good idea. So our therapy is going to be what we call exposure therapy. Okay, can you see where this is going?
God, yeah.
So what she had me do was pull up a YouTube video.
Oh, jeez.
And it was kind of like an ASMR kind of deal.
Yeah.
And so it was a 3-minute video of straight chewing and lip smacking and all those sounds. And she said, okay, today we're going to talk about, I'm going to have you listen to this, and we're going to talk about it afterwards. I was like, Yeah, I was like, okay, I'm going to trust you on this. Like, let's go. It did. All it did was, okay, I kind of understand if you don't know what you're talking about or whatever, like that this could help. But it was literally 3 minutes of torture. And I was like, I don't think this is going to work. Like, I don't know about this. It's like, well, I mean, it's pretty much like, well, you got to give it a chance, like it's about like building that more or less muscle memory in your head to where like, you get so used to the sound that it doesn't bother you anymore. I said, okay, all right. Right. I mean, it makes sense with what you say. And I tried it and I tried it and I tried it. And each time it was just as torturous as the time before.
Yeah.
So, needless to say, I stopped that. But
was she gonna keep going with it? Like, did any idea come into her head where maybe this needs to change course, or was it?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Like, I think and that's where it's really difficult dealing with people that don't really understand this. I mean, maybe she worked with somebody or she read a bunch of articles about it. I don't know, but she didn't really know what it's like to deal with something like this. And maybe for some other type of condition that exposure therapy works, I don't know. And maybe for some other misophones it works, but for me, that did not work at all. I don't know if there was a part 2 to this, but it got to the point where I said, like, I was just like, I can't do this anymore. So I stopped. And so that put a real sour taste in my mouth. It's like, well, I guess I just have to deal with this. So, I'm back to that, I'm stuck. I'm isolated. I'm by myself. No one understands. I just got to deal with it.
Yeah.
So that's what I did for more years. And so recently, I said I got off my other medication back in October. And I mean, not that I really should have, I don't think, but the biggest thing with that was like, I was just sick of taking it. It's been 10 years, and they got some side effects. And typically the side effects I noticed are when I don't take the medication. So I just got to the point, I was like, I'm just sick of it. I want to do this on my own. So I did. I weaned myself off of it, and I'm not on that anymore. However, 10 years of being on the thing or on the stuff, it's funny how I didn't feel like it was doing anything until I'm not on it anymore. So I've noticed, I guess, some obsessive compulsive type things and increased anxiety around certain things. And so that's where, of late, the last 6 months or so, I've noticed an uptick in the level of chaos or uncontrollability associated with my misophonia. Because, at least in my mind, or at least how it works for me, the anxiety and my misophonia, to some extent, are interlinked.
Right.
Where if I have increased anxiety, then all of a sudden, like, just that little chewing that maybe wouldn't bother me if I'm in a good mood becomes unbearable. So recently, a couple weeks ago, actually maybe a week ago, my company has this, they offer it's like a health benefit where they give me 8 free psychology sessions a year. And so what I did is I set one up with a psychologist, and again, I'm looking down through my little menu of psychologists, trying to find one that potentially could understand what I'm going through. And I have other things going on as well, but the misophonia one I thought was key. So I selected this therapist and had a meeting with her. And it sounds like, I talked with her about misophonia, and she legitimately seemed like she understood. and like kind of new, and she says she's been doing this for 34 years and sounds like she's got some good experience. So maybe like, my therapy trauma was hopefully isolated to that one particular person. And again, it's too early to really know if this therapist I'm working with now is going to help with that or not. If she leads with exposure therapy, I'm going to say thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'm moving on to the next one.
I hope it hasn't. She hasn't been doing it for 34 years. Exposed.
Yeah, I hope not. But yeah, man. Like it's been getting worse, and that's where like I've been, trying to just reach out and find avenues in which I can alleviate some of this or maybe deal with it a little better.
Yeah.
And that's where, I've been doing a little extra research of late. So, and it seems like since I've last really looked into it, there are more things coming, and AI being like a commonplace with your Google search now kind of helps too. That, there's a lot of things I think that are improving for the better around misophonia. So I'm definitely grateful for that.
Yeah, I'd love to hear how things go with this therapist. It's the kind of sucky thing about our system is like you go down one avenue and it could lead to good things, or it could lead to therapy trauma. It's just such an expensive choice that it's hard to. You can't just experiment as we should be able to.
Right.
So, I mean, look, we're almost an hour into it. Anything else you want to share that we haven't gone through? We've covered a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and now I didn't like write anything down, which maybe I should.
No.
I've been thinking about this a lot, and my goal was to cover like all the little quirks and things that I've experienced over the years. And right now, I don't think I have anything. Like I know, like you're pretty involved in research and getting to, maybe come up with some more concrete ways for us to manage this and deal with it in the future. So I'm definitely excited, like as that continues to develop. And I know that's not a tomorrow or next week thing. That's years down the road, maybe even longer. But I am really excited for that. And just speaking for myself, it does give me some hope. It's been a all but lifelong, over 3 decades struggle. 2 decades, sorry, 2 decades struggle for me dealing with this stuff. So knowing that something's being done about it, at least people are trying. We're getting some funding and hopefully like more to come with that. But that's kind of what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah. No, it's an exciting time. It's getting more attention, and we'll see how it goes. I think the best parts are, just hearing the conversations like you've been hearing, and the ones that people. Well, this conversation that other people are going to hear too, and resonate with. So, thanks for coming on and sharing your story, Andy.
For sure, man. I'm really grateful to be here, and I really thank you for having this podcast and let me kind of tell my little story.
Thank you, Andy. Great conversation. Thanks for coming on, and good luck with everything you have coming. If you like this episode, don't forget to leave a quick review or just hit the 5 stars wherever you listen to this podcast. You can hit me up by email at hello@misophoniapodcast.com. I'll go to the website misophoniapodcast.com. It's even easier just to send a message on Instagram or Facebook at Misophonia Podcast, and on Twitter it's Misophonia Show. Support the show by visiting the Patreon at patreon.com/Misophonia Podcast. The music, as always, is by Moby. And until next week, wishing you peace and quiet.